envisioned as a 20-minute immersive, multisensory, theatrical musical work. So everything in this piece grew outward from that text. Next in my process is world building, and this is not unique to this piece. So for me, this text that I'd written became discrete scenes, kind of almost like a film, and a cast of recurring characters took shape as I imagined voices with inflection, pitch, timbre, age, and accent speaking certain lines. I also have synesthesia, so sections of the text then became physical spaces that had color and shape and images attached to them, which I later brought to life in the video and lighting design, as I'll discuss later. But first, they made the piece into this physical, visible, mentally traversable set of spaces within this imaginary world that in turn guided my composition of the music. So for me, a vast, dark, silvery black space became vast, dark, silvery black music, and lush, peachy, flowery spaces that I imagined somewhere between a cathedral and outer space and the cathedral between my ribs became music that exemplified that scene. And that's just how I work in general in music. I come up with these sort of visual or tactile places, worlds, things, and then translate them into music, which is kind of how my brain works. The music took shape around this texted collection of worlds. I would describe the music in this piece as a vast microtonal, metatonal timbre sculpture that uses an eclectic collection of styles in new and strange ways. These musics included lush music inspired by Ravel but made alien and dreamlike, church music from my past, sci-fi electronica, microtonal ritualistic choruses, Celtic folk, vintage radio drama, an intense electroacoustic climax, dreamy floating interludes, and an eerie ending inspired by the end of Holst's Neptune, but again made even more alien and surreal. Within all this eclectic collection of different musical styles, one thing that unified the piece was a harmonic system I came up with early on, made from harmonies that were built from logarithmic sequences. So what I did is take the natural logarithmic sequence from n is 1 to 16. So these were 16 note chords or up to 16 note chords. But that produced numbers that are very close together. So in order to practically use them in music, I had to expand them by some number. So here on the screen, this is just a page from my music notebook. I scaled them by different factors. So we have it's scaled by 12, by 20, by 19, by 9, and there's a few other options that I created. And I did it in a quarter tone world. So quarter tone means, like when you play every note on the piano, white and black, these are semitones. So if you include every pitch in between each of those pitches, it's a quarter tone landscape. So you call an arbitrary pitch 0. And then, for example, if you wanted, 25 above that, you count up 25 quarter tones to this F quarter tone flat pitch. And then you take you take harmonies from that collection to create the chords, and the content that was at the very bottom is the most widely spaced. And so I found that my ear heard these chords as sort of almost major or almost minor, depending on what was the information found in the lower part of the chord. And the upper part of the chord was always very squished quarter tones, which also kind of mirrors the way that sound works in the natural world and the way our ears work. So an example of these chords, there's 4 chords used from different logarithmic harmonies. For the electronics, I collaborated with my longtime friend and former LO Creators Corps member, TJ Cole, which all came from recordings of the human voice, almost all of which were my human voice, with the exception of one that was the orchestra speaking as a quasi-church congregation. But all the rest of the song and speaking was my own voice. Some of the text was declaimed or sung in the normal voice, and then it stayed that way in the piece. Some were processed and overlaid by TJ using various audio effects. Here's an example of some vocal improv we used to create a string human voice and gut hybrid. And this is what that made. Yeah, TJ did some magic on that. In addition, some of these lines were voice acted by me, different characters, then changed using an AI voice changer called 11 Labs, which I had previously used in another orchestral work titled Mycelia Lore. I'll talk about that process a little bit. So an example, we'd have original recording by me being as close to this character as I could get. Then in the tool 11 Labs, many of these are actual people like uploading their voice, or voice actors uploading their voice into the tool, and then you can kind of clothe your recording with their voice. It's very cool. And then the result is that character with my inflection, but with that person's voice. Here's the original.
Later in autumn, it was said that the leaves of the tree were especially vibrant.
Ho, ho, ho! Very Merry Christmas to all of you wonderful little children. Later in autumn, it was said that the leaves of the tree were especially vibrant. Like...
And another example,
Is it dead? Oh God! What is that thing?
this is making a fake vintage radio drama. I composed some organ music and then chose a nice nostalgic organ timbre for that. Plus 3 different 11 Labs voices that I thought exemplified that sort of vintage 50s radio drama. And some radio effects added, made this clip for the actual piece.
Just there, on the ground. Is it dead? Oh, God! What is that thing?
So next I'll talk about the video. The goal of the video was to place listeners inside the world's colors and textures created by the text and the music, and to make the experience immersive and multisensory. I used Midjourney, an AI tool, to generate visual material, Topaz to upscale the footage, another AI tool, and some traditional editing techniques inside of Final Cut Pro on the bottom. So there was a lot of speeding clips up, playing them backwards, doing all kinds of different puzzle solving and other kinds of editing. Creating the video was itself a world building process. AI clips only emerge a few seconds at a time with our current tools at the current point in time. So building a 21-minute work meant hundreds of hours of iteration, editing, creative problem solving, and I estimate the process took about between 200 and 300 hours. And I come to this with a background in visual art, so what I enjoy about these tools is the strange creative space they open up for experimentation and building new worlds. I worked on the art style itself for several weeks because it was really important to me what it looked like, aiming for something fantastical, sculptural, and sort of stop motion inspired that was beautiful but unsettling, surrealist, and uniquely weird and personal. The video has recurring themes of tunnels, cathedrals, and architecture made of abstract, living, visceral textures, as well as vintage sci-fi, glowing lights, outer space, and galaxies. Now I have some audio-visual clips from the piece so you can hear and see. And these are using digital digital orchestra sounds so that we can legally post this online so we don't run into CBA.
What is CBA?
The collective bargaining agreement for the musicians.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I won't get into the details, but it's very strict as to what I can share publicly.
Green, green the thicket, the scent of flowers, the caress of breeze, over and under, song through the branches, the blowing of moth dust percolates, eddies, on currents of air, round the base of the spine, settles in piles, heavy, laden with time. What we all will become is the hide of the ground, the sieve is too fine.
Furnace. The stars. The awe.
And lighting design offered a final immersive element in the performance. I created the lighting design and timing myself and was very grateful to Nova on the KPA production team who did the actual programming of all of these cues, as well as Elizabeth Etienne and Jacob Gottlieb from the LO who called the cues in the performances. And Jacob Gottlieb also programmed the entire Ableton patch that triggered all of the video and audio, as well as made the synthesizer sounds in the live performance. So I'm grateful to all these collaborators. Could not have done it without them. These are some of the examples of the lighting looks that we were able to achieve in the hall. So in general, my work is immersive in genre bending and loves to exist in that threshold where things can be both lush and gorgeous and yet uncanny and unsettling. And Enteric Portal expands on and challenges people's definition of what orchestral or classical music is or is allowed to contain. Audience reactions were intense and polarized, and it's an honor to have created something that created such powerful reactions in people. Many people told me how it allows them to connect to their own bodies, or that even though it was really weird, they had a powerful and positive experience. It certainly challenged the typical format for orchestral performance, and it was a transformative undertaking for me personally, and I feel very lucky to have had the support of my collaborators and friends who helped make this ambitious project happen.